Life podcast. And so we've started this podcast here at Way of Life to give an insight to the church beyond Sundays, beyond Wednesdays, beyond Tuesdays, beyond our events. Something to get to know leaders and just members of the church more than the surface level that we know them now, that we get to know them during services. And so what better guest than our first guest to be our own Pastor Kevin Shindoll. Pastor?
It's great to be with you today. Excited about the Let's Talk podcast and see where it goes from here. So thankful to be a part of Wayoflife.church and the ministries here. My wife and I have been the pastors here for 15 years. I've pastored over 20 years total, and in the ministry, like 35 years. So I'm not sure how I got to that point, but here we are.
Perfect. Well, like I said, the goal here is to keep it uncut, one take, almost like a real podcast. And so I've got some questions. So this is going to be our first segment here on this channel, or this page is what we're going to call it, is Q&A, 10 questions with so-and-so.
Okay.
So this will be 10 questions with Pastor Kevin Shindoll. And so your first question is going to be a sensitive one, probably an emotional one, and probably something that our church faces a lot, and maybe most of us don't even realize. But what would you say to someone? They're standing at the front doors of Way of Life. They've been hurt by people. They've been church hurt. They have no faith, no trust in the Lord. What is one thing you would like for them to know before they step into those front two doors down there in the foyer, about our church, about our God, and how to proceed?
Well, I'm not sure it could be answered in one thing, but I'll try. I think the best thing for us to recognize is that no church is perfect. No ministry is perfect. No pastor is perfect. The only perfect person that's ever lived is Jesus Christ. And so because of that, there's automatically going to be built-in issues in every organization. And so I think if you're coming in with hurt from another situation, I think you need to recognize that you're not coming into a perfect place. The pastor here is definitely not perfect. I know him pretty well. And so there's going to be issues. Jesus himself said that it's impossible except for offenses to come. Offenses will come. We're going to be offended. It's just the way it is. And what we have to do as mature Christians, we walk in forgiveness. We forgive those that hurt us. In fact, we can't even be forgiven unless we do that. And then we have to trust again. And sometimes that trust will be misplaced and it's going to falter again. But just as mercy is new every morning with God, we also have to get up every day and recognize that our relationship with Jesus Christ is more important than any kind of issue we may have within ourselves. And that if you will allow that, the people of God, they're imperfect as well. They've been hurt as well. And you can heal together and learn to walk again, learn to love again, learn to worship again. And that's really what Way of Life is about. It is about, it's really about love. And you can't have love unless you walk in forgiveness. And that love will help you heal.
That's perfect. That's so well said. And I think that's something a lot of people lose when they come to church. They forget that a part of you receiving forgiveness, you have to give it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like when they come in and they're hurt, they don't realize to relinquish that.
Right.
To move forward. And so
well, before we move on from this, just another, a practical example is that we don't stop going to the doctor because there's sick people there. We still go because we know we need to. We know that ultimately it'll help us. And that's the same way with church. In church, you have people on every spectrum of growth, and as I've said before, everyone that is part of the church is imperfect. And so they're on some level of healing themselves. And so I think when we recognize that, we don't stay away from church just because it's imperfect. We go to church because we know that we need to have that relationship with Jesus Christ. And you can't have a relationship with him without having a relationship with the body. He died for the church. He gave himself for the church. And so the church is inseparable from relationship with him.
That's very well said, Pastor. This next question here is very relevant to our current culture, especially with social media, and that is politics. Politics plays a major part of our world, of our country, probably a bigger part than it should. That's up for debate. What, for someone that's part of, representing Way of Life, what would you tell, and not only representing Way of Life, but a follower of Christ, what would you tell your saints, the saints of the Lord, that, hey, you want to put Christ at the forefront of all these issues, but also you want to stand up for what is right? How do you navigate those conversations, those ideas, and how do you go about expressing them without contradicting what we're called to do here?
Right. Well, the Bible speaks of speaking the truth in love. And I think that as Christians, we need to realize not only what we're saying, but how we're saying it. My philosophy on social media and from the pulpit is that I'm very careful about how I represent my beliefs. Me personally, I'm very conservative. I think if you're biblical, in many ways, you're going to be conservative. However, I refrain from promoting or endorsing any particular party or any particular candidate because they're all imperfect. And as a part of the church and representing my own ministry, and then of course a reflection of Way of Life's ministry, I want to make sure that everyone feels like they can come here. And so when we get to a time of voting, we're privileged to live in a country where we do have the privilege of voting, and I encourage our congregation to vote, but I don't encourage them to vote a particular party or candidate. I present to them biblical principles, and I said, first of all, you need to pray, and you need to vote according to a candidate or a party that reflects as close as possible and will further as close as possible those principles. Some very important things for me and for the Word of God is the sanctity of life and the sanctity of marriage. And I think those two principles, if people will use those, that God honors marriage, between a man and a woman, and God honors life before it's born and after it's born. I think if you use that as a litmus test, then it will guide your voting. However, I don't get into debate on social media. If I post something that may, and most all of my posting is encouraging. It's
Uplifting.
It's kind of a devotional type setting for just me. That's just me. I don't post a lot of personal stuff. Every now and then I will. But if for some reason some devotion or something sparks somebody to say something, off-putting or controversial or like about a certain candidate or not, for me personally, it's my page, so I just remove it.
Yeah.
Because I want to pastor whoever is hungry for God. And everyone comes with a different background, and they have a different understanding of what different parties and different candidates believe. And so if I start drawing a line and calling names, then I can isolate, a huge portion of people that need God.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they'll come in, and the church and the ministry and the principles that we teach will influence them. But it's not our main duty to convince someone to be like us. We want them to be like Jesus.
Yeah.
And to have a relationship with Him.
Yeah, that's so important. Putting the emphasis on being like Jesus.
Yeah.
I think it can get very easily, slippery slope with wanting to respond, wanting to defend, and then just coming to that understanding that this is not something that I probably should be doing.
Right.
It's not a good representation of what it means to be a follower of Christ, and so, that's really good, Pastor. Let's go off course here a little bit. Let's make it a little more lighthearted.
Okay.
The age-old question, I think, across the entire nation: Whataburger, In-N-Out. I think I know where you are on this issue.
That is such an easy answer. It is 100% every day and twice on Sundays, Whataburger. The only time I ever go to In-N-Out is when somebody comes to town and they just have to have it. And I'll take them. Or if it's too late, well, of course, it's never too late for Whataburger because it stays open. But just somebody wants it. To me, first of all, they're stubborn. They don't have mayo. Second of all, their fries taste like styrofoam. So,
you get them cold, they're a little styrofoamy. I'll give you that. When they're hot, they're pretty good.
I don't know about that. I want to present the truth in love here. Go to Whataburger. Go to Whataburger.
I prefer Whataburger. In-N-Out, as a big boy, In-N-Out just too small. Even if I do like 3 patties, I'm still hungry afterwards. At least Whataburger, you feel real full.
Funny thing, there's been a few times that I've actually taken my own mayo to In-N-Out just to survive it,
Yeah.
And it's much better with mayo. And the burgers really aren't bad. They're not the best, but they're not bad.
They're not bad. You're right. I think I just asked that question because I know, especially here in Texas, Whataburger is like...
Yeah,
And then, In-N-Out comes, and a lot of native Texans see it as like, oh, that's a California burger. We don't want that here. And so now it's like, big debate on social media. And so I was...
when it got here, I had high hopes. I thought, man, it's moving just like a, half mile from the church. It's going to be right there. I've heard it's so good. I was just so disappointed.
No.
Sorry, In-N-Out.
Sorry, Jordan.
Sorry, Jordan.
Okay.
Not sorry, Jordan, really.
So I think this is going to be something that's geared towards, I think, just about everybody, and that is social media. And it's a little ironic because if you're watching this, it's probably going to be through social media.
Right.
But social media, when is it that, okay, I've consumed a ton of this today, this week, this month. It's probably not affecting me in a good way spiritually. What would you tell to your congregation? Like, hey, this is honestly where you should draw the line. When you feel that, it's gone past this point, take a break, cut it off. You can always come back to it, just take a break for now. What is your thought process on that, and how should we implement that in a way that maybe Christ would if they had social media then?
Yeah, the Bible talks about moderation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a key principle in anything, but especially social media. It plays such a big part of our lives. Many times it's the first thing we go to and the last thing we go to. And we've got to use moderation. I think in my own life, the times I've taken a step away from it is when I feel like it's affecting me emotionally, either just when there's tense things going on in the world and the political side of things or whatever, and I see all of this this news just inundating us. Sometimes I have to step away. I feel like if it's affecting me emotionally, and it's causing me to think negatively, then I need to step away. If it's taking my time away from devotion, prayer, if it's taking time away from my family, then you gotta isolate it. You may not have to step away from it totally, but you need to build some margins into your life and just say, look, I'm not going to do this quite as much, And I think it's important to take times off. I try to do that when we go on family vacation. I'll put something up on my social media that says pause for family time, because people are used to me posting almost every day. Usually midnight is when I post.
Night owl.
My devotion thing that I'm thinking, because I'm a night owl. But I think when it's affecting you, and it's just negative, makes you begin to think negatively. I think one thing I've noticed in just the world that is so divided, politically, racially, all that. I said this several years ago, and it's still true, that all of that unrest that society wants us to focus on, if I step away from social media and the news as well, because really social media and news are almost intertwined now. You can't get away from it. Where used to social media was just social media, but now everybody's posting articles and videos and newscasts, and, just everywhere. But anyway, what I've noticed is that my daily interaction with real people is a very positive thing. No matter what our beliefs, no matter if they have a more liberal bent or a more conservative bent, or what nationality they are, what skin color they are, my interaction with my world, at least the world I live in, is very positive, and it's very blessed.
Yeah.
But yet you go on social media and you feel like the whole world hates each other. But that's not really reality. I mean, there's a lot of that. I'm not saying that it's not. But I think if you pull away from what the algorithm is trying to feed you, and you pull away and you just interact with people on a daily basis, you're going to recognize that most people, even when they disagree with you, they're kind. There's something about them that's positive. And I think social media highlights the divisiveness.
Yep.
And when that starts happening, then you gotta pull back. And you need to curate your social media. If there's things that are constantly coming across your feed that are negative, block it, unfollow it, stop it. If there's people that are constantly coming across your feed presenting things that are against Scripture, hate and lust and pictures that you don't need to see, and just all this stuff, block it. Just move away from it.
Yeah, I to your point there, it influences your day quite a bit, and because of that algorithm, all of a sudden you get 3 or 4 videos on some very just unspiritual topics, and all of a sudden you've gone from I'm so blessed today to man, that's so sad, and now you kind of just all mopey throughout the rest of the day.
Well, sometimes you don't even recognize it. I'll start feeling stressed, and then I start looking around. I'm like, well, what am I stressed about? Yeah. And then my brain says, well, you just saw this or read that or heard that, and so I'm stressed or sad or whatever from an outside source that really has nothing to do with my daily life.
It's fabricated.
Yeah, I'm adopting feelings that really aren't real to me at the moment. So
Another thing with the social media is you can get a lot of jealousy too.
yeah,
You see, hey, that guy just got a new car,
right.
and I wish I had the money for a new car. God, why don't have you blessed me like that?
Yeah.
And you don't even realize the Lord has blessed you so much already, and you're still looking after what your neighbor has. And so I 100% agree when it comes to it affecting your day, just your mood, your spiritually, is it bringing you out of the place of the Lord? I did want to add this, not to make the serious topic, funny or lighthearted, but you must stay off social media on Sundays, right?
You know, I know you're referring to my beloved Cowboys. Yes, it does affect.
Is that on purpose?
It's probably subconscious. Being someone that's loyal to their city, unlike other people that might support other teams that really have nothing to do with where they were born and raised. I'm very loyal to my team. And even though I disagree with the ownership and the leadership of our team in many ways, it's still us. So.
It's funny that you brought that last part up, because that's actually one of the questions. It's got a twist to it. But on the point of nothing to do with the city, I will say my team is 4-1 in AT&T Stadium. That includes the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And 4-0-1, so not a loss, a tie.
Yeah. And where were you born?
Parkland Hospital, Dallas,
Parkland.
Texas.
Here in Dallas.
Yeah.
Oh, so you might have been one of those unloyal people, disloyal people that I was referring to. I mean, I'd hate to say that about a brother, but
Oh, I still love you. It's okay.
Plus, green and gold are ugly colors.
They're
ugly colors.
All right. Well, that leads me to my next question here. The Jerry Jones, obviously the Jerry Jones, we love him.
Yes.
The other Jerry Jones. Now that's who we're gonna be talking about.
Okay.
The Jerry Jones, obviously, General Conference. He did.
Yeah, that's the Jerry.
That's the Jerry Jones. Yeah, he did amazing.
Absolutely.
That's the Jerry Jones. We're not gonna. I made that mistake. I've learned from it. The other Jerry Jones, the last 30 years. How do you rate that job that he's done?
I would say he's getting an F on his report card.
All right.
It's not good.
There were some good years there.
Yeah, false hope, sadly.
Well, that brings us to relationships and how to avoid toxic ones like yours with the Cowboys. What is your best advice to someone who is, maybe, and when I say relationships, it can be romantic, it can be family relationships, friendships, and I know that's a very wide spectrum, but for those relationships, to keep them godly, to keep them strong, what is your biggest recommendation for that? How would you say, how would you tell a saint, hey, so-and-so is, I'm having issues with so-and-so, I would like to just, build our relationship. What would you say this is the building block for a strong relationship?
Well, that is a huge question.
Very wide.
It's very wide.
So if you need to narrow it down, if you need to use relationship like romantic, family.
Right. Well, let's just start with family. Family, first of all, is family. It's blood. Now, that doesn't mean that you give them total access and total ability to influence you, because we have to live biblically. Mm-hmm. And our relationship with Jesus Christ overrides any family issue that might arise. But it's still family. And so you kind of what we talked about earlier about walking in forgiveness, walking in love. And to me, just because you love somebody and you've forgiven them doesn't mean that you still need to give them the same access. If they're a constant negative influence or constantly fighting you about living for God, about doing what God desires for you, I always say sometimes it's okay to love people from a distance. You just love them, and when you're with them, you're kind. I have family members that totally disagree with my lifestyle, disagree with my more conservative views. But you know what I've told them? They try to fuss with me. I just say, look, I love you, and you're my family no matter what you say to me. And I'm not going to argue with you, right? And so that's in the family side. In relationships, you know, especially, so if you're a single person and you're trying to live for God, then I've always said it's better to be single and to wish you were married than to be married and wish you were single.
Yep.
Because once you get married, then biblically that is a vow for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, for sickness and in health, all those things. And so it's a vow. And there's only just some small things in Scripture that can release you from that. But even then, it's not, I don't know if it's really pleases God. Now, if someone's in an abusive situation or whatever, you know, I don't think we have to stay in that. We shouldn't do that. However, marriage is a vow before God, not just before man. And so we've got to be very careful, and we need to enter into dating relationships knowing that ultimately that dating relationship could turn into a marriage relationship. And so you've got to approach that very carefully, make sure the person is in church, living for God, that loves God more than they love you.
Yep.
That they're attracted to God more than they're attracted to you. Because if not, they may act in a certain way to attract you, and then once they get you married, they'll become them real self.
Yep.
And so you just got to be careful to govern relationships and guard them. And when you're in a dating relationship, if you're going to please God, then you've got to keep yourself pure. Keep yourself pure in mind. Keep yourself pure in word. Don't have conversations that open the door for lustful things and sexual things to happen. And then discipline your life. Don't let your good be evil spoken of. So what do I mean by that? That's scripture, by the way. So what do I mean by that? Well, this is what I tell people, and this is kind of a humorous way to say it. You know, if you're on a date, if you're on a date and the car stops rolling, you get out. Don't sit in the car.
Yep.
Because the more you're alone, the more familiar you get, and then you don't go into a house, an apartment alone. You keep yourself in a public setting, because hey, we're all human. Mm-hmm. We all have hormones, and you know, when hormones kick in, the brain kicks out, and so you've got to discipline yourself.
Yep.
And you've got to build some boundaries, and you need to have a discussion. Especially, and this is going to sound, this is anti-society, right? Because our society wants to make everything equal. But as a man that's going to live for God, you need to be willing to set boundaries for a relationship and just say, hey, we're going to live for God. There's just some places we're not going to go. There's some things we're not going to do. And as a young lady, you need to set some boundaries for you, that your value is more than your body.
Yep.
And your purity is more valuable than any kind of feeling you may have. And those feelings and those actions are designed and ordained to be holy in marriage.
Yeah. But
outside of marriage, they're not. And so if you want to live for God, build boundaries in your relationship, and just draw some lines and build some safety walls. And as you approach these things, also there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. So go to your pastor. Say, hey, I'm thinking about dating so-and-so. What do you think? Well, it's not because I know everything or your pastor knows everything. It's because they know a lot of things that you're not aware of, because they're trying to help people live for God. And so they may be aware of something in that person's life that should say, well, maybe you ought to wait a little while, or I'd rather you not.
Yeah.
And then just trust that. Trust that, because I'd rather learn from somebody else's knowledge and experience than have to go through it myself.
Yeah. That's something that we're trying to implement right now with Hyphen is we call it a buddy, is it a discipline buddy or essentially someone accountability buddy. There you go. Thank you for that. Somebody you can confide in, like that you trust, and let them know, hey, this is what I'm going through, and they can, in theory, you are both spiritually close to the Lord, and you can give each other godly advice. Because giving someone advice is one thing, giving someone godly advice is completely different. And it's almost like society is just desensitive to what it means to put a relationship, set a boundary around it, and just have a biblical relationship. It's like they're trying to do everything to set a new standard, a new normal.
Yeah.
And it's challenging.
Well, our society has made it so easy to get out of it. So, and there's no, in their mind, there's no consequences to that.
Yep.
But biblically, we know that we should guard our relationships before marriage and after marriage. And after marriage, you need to guard it jealously. Not to mean jealous of your spouse, but you need to guard your relationship. That is the most, other than your relationship with Jesus Christ, your most important relationship is with your spouse. And so you guard it. You don't allow influences to come in to hinder that, either from family or from other people. You guard yourself. You don't have communication with the opposite sex that may open a door to something romantic. You don't text. You don't talk about things. You guard your relationships every step of the way, and if you do that, then it will be much more difficult for the enemy of our soul, the devil, right, to use spiritual things and to use fleshly things to influence us to violate our vows.
Yeah, because it's very unfortunate that it's, like I said, it's just become the new standard to do that. And
yeah, if it doesn't work out, we just get out of it.
Just give up, get out of it, and we don't have to work for it.
That's right.
And honestly, when you look at the movement for people converting to Christianity, kind of have that same feel in how they view the relationship is, oh, well, I'm not getting what I need out of Jesus, out of God, and I think I can just pull out. I don't have to fully commit to what it means to live biblically, and so sounds like a commitment thing.
Yeah.
At the
Well, you get out your relationship with Jesus Christ. Of course, He's perfect, and we're not. So that's a little different than a marriage relationship. But you still get out of it what you put in it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that's right.
Now with Jesus, you get a lot more out than you put in. But you'll never recognize the value of it unless you put yourself in total. And in marriage, you've got to decide, hey, that we're going to make this work out. And it doesn't always work out because both parties have to be willing.
Yeah, willing.
But when you go into it, you just got to, hey, we're going to close all the exit ramps. We're going to knock down the U-turn signs. We're going to make this work.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through it, pray through it, and live biblically.
That was a very long and good segment there. I think that is one of the more prioritized things that our world should be hearing and listening to.